How's it going, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Coach Javi here, and today, pre-match preview of a big match in the Premier League. Manchester City hosting Liverpool at the Etihad Stadium. It's a big match in terms of the title race because of what just happened in the Arsenal match. So what we're going to do is we're going to break it down as usual. We're going to talk about the league standings, current form of each team, the injuries, predicted lineups, and then finally, I'm going to give you guys my predicted score. And as usual, if you guys predict the correct scoreline for this match, you will get a free pair of Champion Grind grip socks from my boy Georgie over at Champion Grind. And I do want to give a shout out to my boy Gus, who was the first person to correctly predict the score for one of these pre-match previews. So he already got his stuff. We shipped it same day because you guys already know we're on top of things around here at thenextgoalwinstv. So you can wait until the video's over and I've given you all the information, or if you're feeling like living life on the edge a little bit, pause the video right now, go into the comment section and let me know what you think is going to be the score for this match. And if you get it right, you can obviously win some pretty cool prizes. The other thing, we do have a Discord where we go and chat about the games as they're happening, before they're happening, right after we give our post-match thoughts. I will leave the link to the Discord in the description down below so you guys can go ahead and join us, because that's where you guys can stay in touch and we can kind of go back and forth as the games are actually happening live. So I don't want to waste any more of your time. Let's get straight into it with the league standings. So Liverpool currently sitting in first place with 61 points, Manchester City at 44. It's pretty safe to say that Manchester City has absolutely no chance of winning the Premier League this season. However, because of them sitting in fourth place and with AFC Bournemouth, Chelsea, Newcastle, Brighton, there's a couple of teams that are coming for that fourth position. And as you know, it would be absolute shambles for Manchester City now that they're officially out of the Champions League this season. It would be absolute shambles if they're participating in the Europa League next season and they didn't qualify in the top four. So even though they might not have the chance to win it, they're still fighting for a lot. As for Liverpool, they're looking to extend their lead at the top of the table to 11 points, and I think that pretty much settles it. If Liverpool are to beat Manchester City, the title race is completely over. However, if Liverpool draw or lose against Manchester City, I think a lot of people will start to say that the title race is not just over yet and Arsenal still have a chance. So Liverpool basically trying to put themselves in a position where nobody can catch them, where they can win the league comfortably with a few games left before the season is over. And I think a win away at Manchester City is going to give Liverpool all the confidence that they need to continue their form and continue to extend their unbeaten streak. So let's go ahead and look at each team's current form. Manchester City got knocked out of the Champions League, a 3-1 loss to Real Madrid at the Santiago Bernabeu. They absolutely smacked Newcastle 4-0. They lost to Real Madrid in the first leg 3-2. They beat Leyton Orient 2-1, and they lost to Arsenal 5-1. So if you look at Manchester City's last 5 results, the only real win that they've had is going to be the Newcastle game, because I don't really count Leyton Orient, the FA Cup, playing against a lower division team, not having to use your best players. Manchester City are struggling, and they've been exposed in their last few matches. As for Liverpool, they drew against Aston Villa 2-2. They beat Wolverhampton Wolves 2-1. They drew against Everton 2-2. They lost against Plymouth Argyle, which we've talked about. I've done a tactical analysis, and everybody kind of knew that Arne Slot almost purposely put in a B team so that they could be out of the FA competition and so they could focus on the Champions League, the Premier League, and the Carabao Cup final against Newcastle. And then they absolutely smashed Tottenham Hotspur 4-0. So as I said earlier, in the Premier League, Liverpool have not lost in their last 22 matches, and the only loss that they've had this season was against Nottingham Forest in the 4th match week of the Premier League. So no surprise there when you look at both teams' current form. Liverpool in a much better spot than Manchester City, and Liverpool are going to be looking to exploit some of the confidence issues, some of the lineup and injury issues that Manchester City has, and basically just the fact that they can't get their tactics, they can't get their systems right whenever they play against a big team, besides Newcastle, of course. Manchester City looking to bounce back, looking to make a statement, and obviously what better way to do that than against the best team currently in the Premier League. So now let's take a look at both teams' injured players. Each team with 4 players out apiece. Oscar Bob, John Stones, Manuel Akanji, and Rodri out for Manchester City, which puts them in a little bit of a crisis defensively. As for Liverpool, Cody Gakpo, Connor Bradley, Joe Gomez, and Tyler Morton. Really the only one of importance, or starting position at least, is Cody Gakpo, which means they're going to have to shift some things around, and that's where it's going to get interesting in my predicted lineups in just a little bit. But for the most part, for Liverpool, they have all of their best players. For City, they have enough good players to be able to replace the ones that are injured, besides Rodri, of course, because ever since they lost Rodri, it's been downhill from there. But let's be honest, neither team with a serious injury crisis. They have good enough players to put the best team that they possibly can and give themselves the best chances of winning the match. So now let's go into my predicted lineups, and this is where it gets really interesting. For Manchester City, not so much. We're going to start there. Ederson's going to stay in goal. I think he's realized that he can't just go back and forth with the goalkeepers. It doesn't allow either of them to build any consistency. Last few matches, that's who he's been playing. I think Rico Lewis is going to go right back. Nathan Ake, Ruben Diaz, and Guardiola are going to complete the back line. For sure, we know Guardiola is not going to get switched out. He really can't change Ruben Diaz and Nathan Ake. The only one that he can put, obviously, in those positions is Kusanov, but Kusanov in big matches, I don't think that's the right solution, and I don't think Pep sees it that way either. In front of them, I think he's going to go with Nico Gonzalez, who he said is a mini Rodri. Bernardo Silva as well. He could go for Ilkay Gundogan. I just don't think Ilkay Gundogan has performed really well in any of their last few matches, and this is where it gets slightly interesting for the front four. Savinho and Marmoush absolutely destroyed Newcastle. In their more recent performances, the only one that they've had that's been a good one, a positive one, was the Newcastle one where Savinho and Marmoush were the best players on the pitch. I think if he wants any chance of being dangerous up front, he's going to have to go with both of those players wide. And Erling Haaland, as long as he's back from his injury, we know he wasn't fit to start in the Real Madrid game, which was a huge loss for them. He had to put Marmoush in that position, which did not work out. Marmoush got barely any touches on the ball. I think as long as Erling Haaland is somewhat healthy and fit, he's going to have to risk him. He's going to have to put him up top. And then this is a little bit more out there, is Kevin De Bruyne as the 10 underneath Haaland. For whatever reason, maybe because he's getting old, maybe he hasn't been as consistent, he hasn't given Kevin De Bruyne as much playing time as before. Lots of talk about KDB leaving, going somewhere else, going to the MLS, going to Saudi Arabia. I don't know what's going to happen in the future, but I think you have to take a risk. He might not be as athletic or as fit as he used to be, but he's still your most creative player, and Phil Foden has been absolutely garbage in the last few matches. I think Phil Foden is the one player that really needs to get benched. Pep has to take a little bit of a risk, and he's got to put KDB instead of Phil Foden. As for Liverpool, I'm going to make kind of a crazy prediction. It's not so crazy, but just hear me out for a second. We'll start with the simple stuff. We'll start with the back line, which we know 100% guaranteed this is not going to change. He's going to put Alisson in goal, Trent Alexander-Arnold on the right, Robertson on the left, and then Van Dijk and Konate in the middle. Gravenberch and McAllister are about as secure as the back line as well. Unless one of them has some sort of a sickness or an injury problem, those 7 on the defensive side of the field are not going to change. What happens slightly higher up is going to be an interesting one. Salah is going to stay on the right. It's between Jota, Szoboszlai, and Luis Diaz, those other 3 up there in that front line. He's gone back and forth between Curtis Jones and Dominic Szoboszlai in that 10 position, and the only reason he put Szoboszlai out wide is because Cody Gakpo was injured. But here's what I think he's actually going to do. I think he's going to put Szoboszlai back as the 10. Curtis Jones is going to be on the bench. He's going to put Luis Diaz out on the left and Diogo Jota up top. And where I said that I have a prediction that's a little bit crazy is that I wouldn't be surprised if he starts Darwin Núñez over Diogo Jota. And the reason for that is because Arne Slot is trying to build a really good culture at Liverpool. And I think part of building that culture is that you have to trust certain players and you have to almost back them after bad performances. Darwin Núñez had a terrible performance against Aston Villa. He got a lot of criticism from the supporters, from online, social media. He knew that he had a bad game. He posted about it. He said he's going to be back and he's going to try and give everything that he can for the Liverpool jersey. I think this is going to be a little bit of a mental game for Darwin Núñez and Arne Slot. I think Arne Slot is going to need to restore that confidence in Núñez. He's going to tell him, hey, look, I back you. I think you're a good striker. I think you had one bad game. This is the biggest game of our season as far as the title race implications. I'm going to put you up top because I believe in you and I want you to show me that you're the striker that everyone believes that you could be long-term for Liverpool. And so again, if you guys join the Discord, which I'll leave a link in the description down below, as soon as they release the lineups, I'm going to tell you I told you so if Darwin Núñez is starting. And if he's not starting, then obviously the only changes that I think we'll see is Diogo Jota starting instead with Luis Diaz or Szoboszlai out wide on the left and Curtis Jones in the middle. But as I said, both teams with probably their strongest possible lineups. At this point of the season, everyone's got injuries. And to be completely honest, both Liverpool and Manchester City probably have a few less injuries than they typically do at this point in the season. So, with all of that being out of the way, let's get into my predicted score. Unfortunately for the title race, for anyone who's an Arsenal fan, myself included, I think it's over, guys. I think there's absolutely no chance. And I think this game is going to prove that Liverpool are going to win the Premier League at the end of the season. I'm going to go and say Liverpool 3, Manchester City 1. And I know Liverpool's playing away at the Etihad, but regardless whether City's at home or away, they've just looked so shaky, so suspicious at the back that I think anything can happen. And when I say anything can happen, I'm thinking 3 goals for Liverpool. However, if Manchester City somehow managed to not just get a draw, but managed to get a win against Liverpool and hand them their second loss in the Premier League this season, then you guys already know the videos I'm going to be making. The title race back on. Arsenal still have a chance. Manchester City obviously are going to feel much better about themselves, no longer having that European competition, and then fighting for the top four, seeing how high they can finish in the Premier League this season, and hope to end the season on somewhat of a good note. But once again, make sure you write your predictions in the comment section down below so you have the chance to win some Champion Grind grip socks and some Next Goal Wins TV stickers. Let me know what you guys think. That's it for this one. We'll catch you in the next one.